And we're on. Hello.
Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Transforming Claims Processing with Collective Intelligence. 1 minute. No need to take notes today. If you have any, we'll be sending out a recording after the webinar. If you have any questions, please go ahead and, or if you'd like to share your experience, please go ahead and put it in the chat box. And we'll either respond directly in the chat box or immediately following the webinar. Now I'd like to introduce our speakers. Susanna is ScaleHub's VP of Partnerships for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Based in Germany, Susanna brings ScaleHub's unique combination of human and artificial intelligence to insurance providers, BPOs, and shared service centers throughout EMEA. In the US, we have Peter, VP of Partnerships for the Americas. Peter is hard at work onboarding insurance carriers, BPOs, and technology partners to ScaleHub's crowdsourcing portal. Susanna and Peter will explain the concept of collective intelligence and how it supports claims processing. Peter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you very much. And I'm glad to be here today. So what are we going to be covering and talking about over the next 50 minutes? Given the importance of claims processing to the overall customer experience, and importantly, its connection to customer retention and the bottom line, our main topic today will be how collective intelligence transforms claim processing to not only meet but exceed customer expectations. So to start, Susanna is going to provide a review of what collective intelligence actually is. Just for a quick reminder, if people have seen or new people on the webinar, and summarize the power of combining AI with human intelligence, HI. Secondly, we're going to dive into some specific examples of how collective intelligence can solve claims challenges, especially during the critical moment when documents or images or submissions as part of a claim are input into the process. Finally, we're going to cover the results of adding in collective intelligence to the claims process and how having a human in the loop coupled with the AI will accelerate the overall speed, the accuracy of claims processing. So to kick it off, Susanna is going to provide some industry context about customer perceptions of the claims process and the major challenges that hinder customer satisfaction and retention. Susanna?
Thank you very much, Peter. Yes, I think it comes to no surprise that claims processing remains a key focus area for the insurance industry. A claim creates costs, it's only partially predictable, and it especially impacts the customer relationship. And later on, at the end of the webinar, you will hear about a white paper that we will make available to you. And I would like to use some of the statistics out of that to demonstrate challenges related to the customer relationships when it comes to a claim, because I think it really sets the scene quite well. Now, in a study from Accenture, it shows that after the onboarding process of a claim, of course, is the other major event that providers or carriers are facing when it comes to customer expectations and customer retention topics. So a rapid claim resolution and clear communication is important, as 95% of the respondents of the study have been saying. Now, the shocking part of that, I mean, expectation is one thing, but what happens, if expectations are not met? So if expectations are not met, around 83% of customers are switching there and then, and they're gone, and of course their relationship is lost. Even more worrying is that even if it's satisfactory in the traditional normal way, that almost half are still ready or will leave, even if it is been satisfactory. So it shows how important a good claims handling process really is on the business and on the customer relationship. So unpredictability, high cost, lack of resources, high customer expectations combined are big challenges to be met. Now, how does collective intelligence contribute to actually making that a smooth process? First and foremost, the aim is to support the process, the business, and to improve the customer experience. Collective intelligence solutions will or promise to take away the pressures of service levels. And by doing that, automating or removing gaps of automation, and also help with solving the resource shortage that so many organizations are now facing, independent of which country you're in or which industry you're in, supporting the insurances. So this is really what collective intelligence is setting out to help with. And we'd like to go now really deeper to tell you the theory of it before we dive into the use cases, which is the most important part of today's webinar. So taking a look at the deeper dive, making sure my slides catch up with me. So what is collective intelligence? So if you look at the word itself, collective intelligence is an outcome-based service that approaches process challenges in a different way. And hopefully my nice graphic will appear because it shows quite nicely that in the word collective, it already implies it's a pooling of something. And the first thing it combines is AI and HI. AI, most of you know, artificial intelligence. The HI maybe a little bit less known. That is human intelligence. So here we're talking about an approach that is really helping to bring together a service to bridge the gaps within the processes and insurance has got. Now, this is not a replacement of the automation technology that's already in place, because many organizations, of course, or all organizations have a drive to automate, to optimize processes. This is something to support it. And the secret sauce really is within the way how the human intelligence is being done, because it's done in a different way. And it's done in what Gartner would call human-in-the-loop crowdsourcing. So what we're doing here is we are making the data available to pool resources out of a very, very large skilled worker pool. A scale up, we have 2.3 or 2.5 million even now workers available to us, which are globally distributed, so which are available to us on demand 24/7. And what we've done is we've created a service that actually ensures that even the most, we always talk about sensitive data, that sensitive data can be worked upon by these global resources in a very secure and even more secure way than it's often done internally at organizations today. We will see when we talk about the use cases, some of the techniques are being applied to bring that a bit more to life for you, so you can get a feeling actually what is this all about and how does this help with that. So I think we start with the use cases now, Peter, to actually bring this a bit more to life.
Thanks, Susanna. Yeah, exactly. And what we want to talk about next is really going deeper into some of the use cases, and but first, really understanding what are the challenges that collective intelligence solves head on, and just want to give some context to that before I hit on the use cases. So, a lot of these different topics that we see in front of us now, we've come across over the past few years, in particular with the pandemic, and particularly the talent war topic. Where do you find skilled staff? I mean, ups and downs and peaks with finding availability of folks to actually do the work. And this goes, every vertical, really. It's not just centered on the insurance market or claims. But we know that automation can only, go so far with that. And so you have to find staff to fill the gaps. So this is where we come in, and this is one of the challenges we're focusing on is, having the human in the aspect of it to achieve % accuracy, and balance that with finding talent globally, and different types of talent, different types of skills that can address the specific needs for the different types of claims that you're focusing on. Next, we would talk about the customer centricity of it. And, while this has been going on in the past few years, and it's just over and over again, it's going to get more, that the expectations of customers and the customer experience are, increasing every day. Everything that we do in technology and within the digital experience requires enhancement of the customer experience. So with that, you have tighter times, turnaround times, quicker response times needed for a claim. And then the ultimate goal is focusing on the retention of a customer, which, of course, hits the bottom line if you're not able to keep those customers. In addition, claims are pretty variable, and they're oftentimes personal. So having the human aspect in addition to the AI, and the human touch when combined with AI, can really create a really positive experience. And something that is part of what we do is I think our secret sauce as well, is balancing the technology with the human side, so that there is an efficient moment when that claim is submitted. Finally, from the biggest challenge that we get, or maybe the elephant in the room most of the time, is privacy requirements. And this is a limiting factor for many of our use cases that we get from customers, that they say we have fear of this. We address that. We handle these privacy concerns with the technology we have, and we're going to go into how we do that in some of the use case examples. And we are doing this now with very large production examples that are helping our customers process claims. So let's go ahead and look at some of the specific use cases, if possible. So when we talk about in this day and age, I live in New Orleans, and so there's the threat of hurricane often, and we've just went through the large hurricane down in Florida. So the CAT events aspect of it, and how do we approach that? This is a topic that comes up often. AI, of course, does a great job, and most of the carriers are using AI technology to observe and capture quickly where there's been damage, to focus on proactive claims. Where does collective intelligence come into play? When you have a moment like that where you're using computer vision and AI to find that damage, you can use a human and bring a human in the loop before the claims adjuster even sees it, to just do a simple confirmation of roof damage or any other type of damage that may be on the actual claim. So having a micro task for triaging this kind of thing, this can be done within hours. Images can be provided, hopefully relatively quickly after a CAT event. We've talked some of these companies, not only drones, but there's one company out there doing something with a balloon that they can take really high-level pictures of multiple properties. We could take that data and create those micro tasks to have a big help for claims adjusters and allow for proactive claims instead of waiting. So really that kind of fits back to and harkens back to what was discussed in the original slide from Accenture in that study, is that the need for speed and transparency is such a demand and such an important need for the customer to help retain that customer and make them a happy customer. I have one more example related to this CAT event. So, this is just a very similar example, but when somebody has a total loss like this and you're able to get these images, you can quickly define that bucket. So yes, the technology and the computer vision will say, this is a total loss. Next, a human being will come in as a task, and using collective intelligence, it will say, yes, indeed, this is. Let's put this in a bucket and prioritize this claim, number one. So, interestingly, if we go to the next slide, there's an additional approach here, and we've been thinking about this and talking about this and working with some of our customers that goes even beyond typical claims. One of the big pain points we've heard is property renewals, right? It's an irritant, and it takes a lot of work for the carriers to go through these renewals every year, or they just go through them and send them out and they get approved, and the renewals move forward. But what if there's something that's changed? What if the homeowner doesn't provide that change, or the insurance carrier never knows? That's not good for anyone. So we're able to tackle this using collective intelligence by some of our partners that are providing these images, and we can use AI and computer vision to tackle this on a large scale for these sort of monotonous and complex tasks, or long-term tasks, that we can use the power of collective intelligence, which can be a real game changer. So in this case, we can just simply send out a micro task that says, hey, is there a change or is there not a change? And it could be as simple as something like that you see on screen. Somebody added a pool. Maybe this is an example where, in the real world, somebody, of course, would probably put in that they have a new pool. But you know, you never know with extensions or different parts of the house. Maybe they forget, or maybe they just don't do it. So that's important. So you know, even if carriers were able to capture, say, 10% of mistakes or things that weren't added to a renewal, this is good for the bottom line. It's good for the customer because then their properties are fully covered. I'm going to hand it back now to Susanna for a view of how collective intelligence handles auto claims, which is another great example in our use case show here. Go ahead, Susanna.
Yeah, I would like to stay with computer vision tasks, first of all, in the auto insurance area. Now, when it comes to AI and computer vision, I think those of you involved in this topic will most likely have touched upon the identification of damages with cars, because it's just something that is relatively easy because of the kind of limitations, limited amount of parts that actually could go, could be damaged. However, any AI is not 100%, as we know. It needs to learn. It needs to learn on clean data, and therefore, what happens with the exceptions? Now, the whole auto industry, there's many use cases beyond claims for auto images. Think about autonomous driving, think about maybe rental returns. So there's many areas where there is a speed required, there's a scale required. So the challenges when it comes to validating the AI results, therefore, in the cost of those validations, finding the suitable skilled resources, making the task easy enough so you can actually scale it. And that's exactly the approach that we are taking when it comes to the this type of use case within the crowd. So we are actually looking at confirming the damage that the AI has identified when the confidence levels are low, for example, or looking at are there any the AI has missed, and finding an easy way to get a large amount of people and workers involved in then verifying where these damages are. So the next page will show you just a very simplified version of that. There's many different ways of our workers are working with that. Here you find like just a selection of the part itself. And this is a kind of very easy interfaces that our crowd workers would work with in order to ensure that they can quickly be up and running to help with the damage validation and the human in the loop, making that really scalable and by being making it affordable in the end of the day as well. But auto insurance and, of course, collective intelligence is not all about computer vision. So the next example, we stay with auto insurance, but we're moving on to text-based documents. Because at the end of the day, textual documents and textual validation is a very large percentage of what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Now, those of you who are joining us from Europe, or those of you who have rented a car here in Europe, will know this document because it's in every glove box of every car that you have here. That's a claim document. So when you have an accident, this is what you need to complete, and both parties need to complete it. So you usually find more than one handwriting on it. And yes, of course, every carrier, every insurance organization will have an app. But if you look at the recent studies out there, at least on a global scale, around 60% of claims for auto are still on paper, where the app is only to be used to upload the paper in the sense of a PDF being uploaded. Why is that? You know, when you are in a car accident, you're stressed. So, you know, you may or may not have your phone with you. Very likely when you actually have your phone, your device, the app may be out of date. You may need login credentials. So there's many different things actually holding you up. At the same time, you want to get this information down. So what happens at the end of the day, there's a document, in this case with very poor handwriting, because it's done out there, you know, in the winter time now. It could be damaged by snow, by rain. And as I said, there's different handwritings there. So this is something we are faced with all the time across the world in different documents which are out there in the industries. And what we do is we help, in a sense, picking up those documents from the app, from the input, from the paper that's being scanned by the insurance or their partners. And here I would like to introduce one technique that we're utilizing, which is very common in the way that a crowd can be engaged, and that's snippeting. So what is being done with the help of AI and very sophisticated techniques, we would be identifying individual pieces on this piece of paper. Now, in this case, of course, it is a form, structured document. So supposedly very easy that you actually have the same information in the same position. But if you think about everybody takes a picture differently, it could be skewed, there could be shrinkage, there could be, you know, scaling of it. It could be also, the quality could be very poor. So there is also some art already in identifying that. But at the end of the day, what do? We identifying those snippets here on a structured, on a semi, on an unstructured documents, and only those snippets are then presented to a crowd worker. This is actually ensuring that data protection is being adhered to. And so if you look at the next page, then you will see that this is, of course, a mock-up for this purpose here. But at the end of the day, the workers out there will only receive snippets of a certain type. So in this case, first names. So these are first names from many different documents. There's absolutely no way that you can find out what claim this is related to, who is this person, where does the person live, you know, what's the social security number. So really, by snippeting it, you're taking information out of context and ensuring that it is adhering to GDPR, HIPAA compliance as well, and because we talk about medical claims in this context as well. And it really ensures that data protection is being adhered to. At the same time, it makes this whole process very scalable and brings a lot of speed into it, because we can really have many tasks of a form in parallel. So the computer speed is what limiting us to distribute this. And we can get around 1,000 workers every 10 minutes assigned new to a task. So you can see the scales very much up and down. And it ensures that the productivity can be very high, because the person can concentrate on what they're good at. Maybe the language they're good at. Maybe they're good at just really identifying handwriting. They may be very good at capturing dates or numbers in some way or form. So you have the scale within it, and you have the quality assurance already within it as well, because you can also use different techniques here to ensure the text is thereafter corrected or checked upon. So, as I said, this is also suitable for health-related documents, health claim-related documents. And Peter, you're going to take us through some other examples of health claims in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Susanna. And, you know, again, really one point just to sort of center on the fact that, you know, we're talking about insurance claims today, and we're talking about the insurance vertical. And we can cover really with this approach using collective intelligence, many different document types, many different use cases. And so this is just a smattering of some of the use cases within, first of all, claims, but in the bigger picture, really any vertical would be covered by this approach. With medical claims, we've had really great success, and medical documents in general. You know, in this instance, this is a task that is I think it was a spinal cord injury, and imagine that this is part of a medical claim or a workers' compensation claim, and it's part of a very large file. This is submitted, and they need to extract this, first of all, classify this document, right? This will be done by the AI engine, and it can be then a task as well as a classification for a crowd worker, and we would use specialist crowds that are HIPAA certified and have all the correct certifications to do that. But in this particular instance, this document, we would be focused on those X boxes, maybe the name, and those would be micro tasks as simple as that. So as you would see, we would create a snippet, as Susanna introduced, for each one of these boxes, and each box would then be sent out individually to a crowd worker, and this could be done very quickly. So you have this and maybe a different type of document, and the power of the platform using collective intelligence is that one task could be classification, and then a separate task could be the entry of these X boxes, and we are able to balance that load nimbly and quickly to then put it all back together for a claims adjuster to review this file and to look at it. And oftentimes when a claim for medical is reviewed, it's of course by maybe a doctor or a nurse or somebody that is certified to be able to actually say, yes, this is approved. So these are high value workers, professionals that you don't want to have them manually pecking around looking for different files. Another interesting thing here, go ahead and go to the next, we'll go to the next slide. And this is what it would look like just as a mock-up for the crowd worker. All they would do is simply hit X or leave it blank, and that would then finish the task for submission. Importantly too, a file like we had before with the physical therapy or the assessment of the spinal cord injury, oftentimes that could come in later and be chronologically earlier than some of the other submissions that are part of that file for the claim. We can also then use chronological sorting as a task for the crowd workers, and then create that chronological reassembly for the file so that the reviewers have the ability to look at it from beginning to end, as opposed to moving files around and searching around. Files can be indexed. That can also be done, or fields can be indexed and files can be indexed so that they can easily find what they need to do. Say it's a lumbar injury or a lumbar topic, they can search for that particular item and then search through and find the answers that they need to make an assessment. So when we're talking about medical, then we end up with a very, very solid solution that can do millions or thousands of documents a day, millions of documents a year for classification and data entry. Go ahead. So this is another example, and maybe some of you in Europe would recognize this type of document. This is specific to the DACH region, the German-speaking area of Europe, and it's a dental view. And what's interesting here is that you have a full snippet, a very large snippet, and then below you'll see that there are the various fields for the dental exam and the different areas where maybe there's a cavity or areas of concern. And the crowd worker can just simply enter in, based on the rows, the different points and data points that they need to have. This is quite probably from a processing standpoint very difficult to do, or very manual to do. And if there's a dental contract with an outsourcing company and they have millions of these documents, we can process them very quickly, very accurately. That's really the power of collective intelligence. So now I'm going to pass it back to Susanna, and based on these different use cases, we're going to look at some of the real results that we have achieved using collective intelligence from real customers.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, the last example always makes me shiver. And not because I don't like dentists, that's probably one. But at the same time, when you see those documents in real life, is a really nice mock-up example where you can read a lot of things. But the reality is not that, because some of you may think, oh, what's the point here? Because that can be automated. Unfortunately, it can't. So the success rate of an automation technology is still very low for this kind of documents, and therefore the human in the loop will be there. But what I want to do in the next and last part of our presentation, before we go into the Q&A, is to summarize with some examples the benefits that collective intelligence can bring to claims handling. And it can speed up the process. So I explained we can run tasks in parallel. You are able to bring thousands of workers in 10 minutes. They come up and down. They are there 24/7. And at the same time, also the process really scales. So we have customers which, of course, as you said, a claim volume can, in some cases, not be predicted. So we may have a few hundred or even 10 situations one day, and we can have hundreds of thousands, even millions the next day. And the solution is built in a way that it breathes with you. It scales automatically with the demands. And that's one of the really important things. And the 50 or 40 minutes you see here is really the time that our customers, or when some of our customers, can achieve to fully assess a claim, independent on the quality of the input, because they can really scale us in, and the quantity of the input, they scale us in again. So no worries about, some high volumes at the month end over the holidays, or high sickness rates, high fluctuation. This is something that really scales with the business and always guarantees a time. So there is a reliability that comes with collective intelligence to really help with this human in the loop tasks and the gaps in the automation. But speed is not everything. So speed only makes sense if the quality is delivered too. So the services come with a quality assurance. We start with 99%. That's how we start with, and we go from there. There's never 100% because also humans can make the same mistakes. But what we do in order to ensure that the human element of mistakes is absolutely limited is we rely on at least double verification by the human resources that are involved here. And on top of that, sophisticated quality assurance techniques with up to, of course, the supervisor at some point really going into the decision-making process. Therefore, there is the chance, or the not chance, but there is the assurance that the data will be of very high quality. That allows, of course, the providers and their partners to base their processes on accurate data, and ensuring that whatever they have in mind, maybe for straight-through processing, can happen, because this kind of getting the data clean will happen before the next sophisticated part can take place. And any specialists which are working on the process can therefore base it on clean data and don't have to worry about getting the data verified or validated. Now, sounds to some of you maybe as though sounds great, but we don't have resources to do the validation, but we also don't have IT resources. So how on earth do we ever get that into our process? The good news is that we are building on existing processes, so we are not aiming to replace them, and therefore the introduction it's very non-intrusive. So the IT efforts are kept to very much a minimum, allowing that the introduction and is there within weeks. It can be actually implemented in weeks. If you look at a structured document input, like we saw maybe the auto insurance case, this is something that can be up and running in no time. And of course, thereafter, the utilization is automatic. So as and when there is demand, again, there is nothing more to be done. It just flexes in and out with the resources as the volumes are there. So it's not really a massive IT project and big change within your processes. It's something that can smoothly be in place within weeks. I also talked about it being affordable. So the basis of a commercial model for collective intelligence is always based on a transaction, because this is something that's supposed to support businesses in need. So it needs to be something that also can be, it's transparent in a way that I know what it will cost me when I use it. And at the same time, I know also what the cost to expect when the volume goes through. So it really goes down to a transaction level, therefore making it a very transparent model, but also a very affordable model if you think about having that pool of global resources to come upon and making it really much something that can make sense for many situations that you may have. So as a final summary before we go into the Q&A, I would like to say that collective intelligence provides scale and agility to claims processes. It supports textual as well as graphical validation challenges. So it's taking the challenges out of the gaps you have with your automation. It takes the challenges out of the resource fluctuation or limitations you may have. Such a service comes with guarantees of time, of quality, and it assures cost savings, not least because of having a really much a transactional commercial model that's really only linked to use as needed, pay as used. So hopefully this gives you an insight about collective intelligence for insurance claims. So of course, there's a lot more to cover, which we will never do in a 40 or 45-minute session. So Annie will provide you now with some information about the claims white paper and other things that we are planning, and she will also lead to the Q&A. So this is your last chance. If you have any questions, use the chat, please, to get them to us, and we're looking forward to answering them in the last minutes of the webinar. Annie, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Susanna. And thank you, Peter. To the audience, we want to hear from you on the next topic we should cover in this webinar series. Here you can see the topics up for consideration. And tomorrow, if you visit us on LinkedIn, you can let us know which one most interests you. All right, so now we're going to move into Q&A session. We had quite a few interesting questions come through. While we do so, I'm going to leave Susanna and Peter's contact information up on screen. We have an offer of a very compelling white paper on revolutionizing claims processing with crowdsourcing. It goes a deeper dive into some of the topics that Susanna and Peter discussed today. You can reach out directly to either of them for more information or for a copy of the white paper. Okay, so let's see. Our first question, is this solution limited to English documents? I don't know, Susanna or Peter.
So as a non-native speaker, I can say absolutely not. No.
That's why I was waiting for you to answer.
No, it's the complete opposite, actually. I mean, the beauty of this is that the crowd power covers many languages. So we are, for example, supporting the Japanese auto insurance industry in a major way, and with handwritten claim-related documents over there. So as you can imagine, having a handwritten Japanese document that has its own challenges. So the power is really great because we can find the talent to cover all the languages. We're supporting it, of course, with our AI, OCR in the background as well. And we can also tailor the crowd to a specific language need.
Thank you. Here's another. Can you summarize once more how you assure that data protection rules can be adhered to?
Sure, I can take that one. So the secret sauce, as we've covered throughout, is really the snippeting technology, and that would come into play when you're working with structured forms, maybe semi-structured forms, because it contextualizes, anonymizes what the fields relate to. And we often get, at the beginning, customers and opportunities would say, hey, I'm not really sure about that. But then once we, create a pilot project with them and they understand that really the documents are going nowhere, it's only the fields and they are not related to anything on the document, then it creates comfort. In certain instances, I've had, customers say, well, these are government documents, they're privileged or such, and even once we show, hey, this is contextualized, this is anonymized, it's going out, then the comfort levels rise and they feel better about it. And then there's other options as well to create that security assurance. If you have to have a full document, say it's unstructured or semi-structured, or it's part of a larger process like we showed with medical claims, we would use certified specialist crowds that only focus on seeing those specific types of documents. And that would be known as part of an engagement. And so the comfort levels there would be very clear. The guidelines would be very clear. In addition, we have the ability to redact specific fields if we're building an AI model, for example, and that can be part of the project where none of the, privileged or private information would even be shared as part of a full document, and you're creating, the training sets for document types, for example. And then finally, if you think about, say, a DoD project, Department of Defense, for my European friends, and other really secure, or let's say, we also have an option where we can put it behind the firewall and create the snip earlier in the process, so that there's a complete separation between the documents and the snippets. So overall, we have it covered, and that shows by the customers we have and the types of projects we've worked on so far.
Okay, thank you. Here's another. Is this service only available for insurance providers?
Now, whilst we have, first of all, it's industry. We support many industries. We have a specific focus on the insurance industry. But we are not only working with carriers, but we're also working with their partners. So, for example, we work with their technology partners when they are introducing maybe new AI systems. So there's, people underestimate the amount of time it takes to get the systems to learn. So again, we provide that scale and take months out of the, studies say it's average 8 months it takes for the AI to kick in. So we can support that. We also work with many business persons or BPOs out there who are supporting the insurance industry. And these are partners to us, so they can access, of course, our wider pool. They bring in their own talent, but here it's also very interesting that the use cases that the carrier and the BPO together can realize will increase because of this increased data protection part of it. So that's the reason why we see that a lot, that we actually are, we have that kind of constellation that our portal and our tools, techniques are used in that way to bring those two organizations together and the pool of the BPO to the carrier.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Susanna. The technology partners that we have. I mean, the core systems that work with the insurance providers out there. We are partnering with them as well as part of their end-to-end claims processing. So it can, we are ready to, focus on, directly with the carriers, and we have that in some of our customer base, but then also with the technology vendors. It's really a help and aid to them as part of, the processing, and particularly with what we've shown, some of the examples that we've given could have pain points along their process where collective intelligence can be a very useful tool and technology aspect to their complete offering as well.
Yeah, I saw something in the chat around blockchain and so on, and blockchain replacing all of this exchange needs. So think about collective intelligence supporting really where the gaps are. So again, blockchain also relies on the data being there, and there's always gaps. So as I said before, this is not really replacing any other efforts. It's really supporting it and making that data clean in an affordable and in a timely manner. And with that unique scale, which we talked about before, of this 2.3 million people.
I think we've got time for one more. Is this a large IT project?
Well, I'll start. Maybe Susanna, you can fill in. But that's one thing I love about being with Scale Hub is the approach we take at the beginning is to keep it as simple as possible, and the aspect of it is really lightweight for our customers. That's really the amazing thing, is that the AI is built into it, so you're getting all of that from the Scale Hub portal and the intelligence portal. And so from start to finish of piloting a project, can do that weeks, days in some cases, to really get you up and firing, working through the different use cases we see. And so it is accelerated, and we obviously have to do gathering of requirements, but the IT aspect of it is pretty straightforward. Susanna, you want to comment additionally?
No, you've covered it very well. Yeah, so
Okay,
it really it fits into existing processes. It utilizes existing interfaces. So it's not a big IT effort required, because we also know, and it's been built that way, because the resource shortage that our customers have, starts often in the IT department. We know that those guys are overwhelmed and have too much to do. So we want to keep it simple and be a help very quickly.
Okay. Well, it looks like that concludes our presentation. Thanks very much for joining today. Remember to contact either Peter or Susanna for a copy of the white paper, and to vote on our next webinar topic tomorrow on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.